We are nearly a year and a half into this pandemic. No one could have foreseen the tremendous impact this virus would have on our social lives, mental health, and everyday freedoms we often took for granted. The interviews and stories that you are going to hear are from real people all around the world. Although each story is unique in many ways, they all share a common theme. They all share one of survival. These are the first-hand accounts of life in lockdown. These are the Quarantine Chronicles.
This is the Quarantine Chronicles, hosted by Justice Hall.
You know, I'm exposed to people daily, every day. And I don't take that back onto my family, so I wore a mask in the house. And initially, my parents were, "Why are you wearing a mask in the house?" Because I don't know who I've come in contact with. And at the end of the day, initially when this whole thing kicked off, you have to think that if your thought process was, everybody is not infected, that's the wrong mindset to have. My thought process was everybody's infected until they tell me that, until there's proof that they're not.
You're skeptical of everybody, like, stay away.
Like, I don't know, but okay, but it makes you, because I wasn't the most social person when we were, in high school and all.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we pretty much stayed in small groups. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The FYI, everybody, we went to high school together.
But when we had our groups that we hung out with.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Do Your Life Justice with another installment of the Quarantine Chronicles. We have with us today on the show, John. Welcome.
How you do?
All right. Can you tell us where you're at, where you're from, and what you do for a living?
I am in Indianapolis, Indiana, from Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana, and I am a paramedic by trade. That's my profession. Paramedic, but I'm also an educator. I teach the upcoming EMTs and paramedics of the day.
All right. So being a paramedic, have you seen an uptick in emergency response needs for during this coronavirus time, or is work still about the same?
I would say during the time there was a downtick, but then there was always a consistent number of calls that went out. The interesting thing about that is that there were certain runs or calls that went out that decreased, like car accidents decreased because there wasn't anybody out. But there was a spike in overdoses still due to people being home and trying to pass time with their activities per se. And then there's always those runs for shortness of breath and chest pain that always occur, even in conjunction with the pandemic and the virus and the sicknesses that go along with that.
That's interesting that you say that during this time that there's been more calls because of ingestion and everything. Like, is that ingesting like drugs for, extracurricular activity, or so heroin? Okay, so it's not ingesting things to try to cleanse their system. Like
there
a person said.
There were some of those cases also where people were out there trying to
experiment,
disinfect their bodies. We're going to use those words since this was the disinfectant to purge their body of the virus or protect themselves. But there's always consistency with your heroin users that those always occur. It doesn't matter what's going on. People are going to find some means to get high if that's what they want to do.
Try to numb the pain. Yeah.
Always, yes.
So with that, do you think, how would you say that the virus has impacted people's mental state, you being in the medical field?
Mentally, people are, in a sense, most people are just over this whole pandemic, which I'm sure across the board, that's what it is. You have folks who don't believe that it's real. You have folks that are ultra cautious. And then there are folks who are like, well, it is what it is. So in regards to people's mental stability, per se, it all depends on their belief or their accepting of science, I guess. If they actually felt that people were getting sick, and a lot of times people did not think that this was real until somebody was sick close to them. And in the healthcare field, the nurses and doctors are being extremely burnt out with long hours. And you do have folks coming in thinking they are not, that this is a hoax. So folks are trying to educate them while they're there. Then by them not thinking it's real, and then people just, what I'm saying is people really don't understand or can't understand what people in healthcare are going through when there are guidelines out there to keep folks safe and to prevent them from getting sick. And people do the exact opposite. And then who has to take care of you? The nurses, the doctors, the paramedics, the EMTs have to come to you. Paramedics are going to go to the house, pick you up, and you're sick with COVID. So then you're exposing them to potentially getting sick. And you have, they go to the hospital, potentially get the healthcare workers in the hospitals getting sick. So not saying that, paramedics and doctors and nurses are working in fear, but there's the concern that I don't want to take this home to my family. I don't want to get sick. So that is always
That
thought
thought going
process
on
in the back of your head that's brewing, that's like, okay, what if?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely understandable. In being in that field, as a medical professional, having to interact, having to be the savior, basically.
Yeah.
Because, the scientists and the doctors, nurses, EMT, you all are the ones that we rely on to nurse us back to health, to keep us safe, create the vaccines, administer the vaccines and everything. And so when you have a group of people that are resistant to following just simple protocols, you in the medical field still have to do your job. But I can imagine that there's a level of frustration when you see people who are not taking it seriously. And so what do you think plays a bigger role in that skepticism and resistance? Do you think it's more political or religious?
It could be a
No, that's a controversial question, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway.
I don't mind being controversial. It's a combination of both, I believe. Political, yeah. If one side says that the sky is blue, but the other side wants to be the direct antithesis of that and say, no, it's red or green or purple. If the truth is there and you are denying the truth and you're selling people, the snake oil
remedies
and stuff, then how can you move forward as a whole when you have truth on one side and people who believe in a lie on the other side, it's not going to happen. And then when it comes to religion, the old saying, this might get me in trouble of just pray on it, have faith. There's nothing wrong with having faith, nothing wrong with praying on it. But you do have a brain, and you do have common sense. And you do have, to deny science is almost like denying God, if you can put it like that, because science was given to us by God, if you want to go in the biblical realm of it, per se. And if you don't believe in science, then technically, I say you don't really believe that there's a higher being out there. But science is a series of tests that are done. And we'll just put it on medicine right now. A series of tests, trials, and tests that are done that come back the same every time. So if you something simple as the textbook heart attack, there are symptoms that you hear that will tell you a person's having a heart attack. Chest pain, the pain is radiating pain that's going down the left arm, and then they have pain that's stiffness in the jaw. Feels like there's an elephant on their chest. You hear these symptoms. That's textbook heart attack, primarily for men. So if you have your trials that continue to go on, that you know that if this is what's going on, this is how you can diagnose it. Well, we've had the trials, and some of this stuff with the pandemic was learn as you go. But a year into this thing, we've had people do the trials and see that if you do this, then this happens. If you wear a mask, it helps mitigate the spread of the virus. But why is it such a hard thing for people to wear a mask? Because you politicize it. If you politicize something, then you're going to have opposition from one side, regardless of what it is, because no matter how good it is for the whole, there's one side that's going to break. But I don't want to do that because that's how they think. And we don't want to think the same way they think, because then that means we agree. And then if we agree on something, then maybe we can get something done as a whole. But that's not how it's going here in this country of the United States of America. Democrats are going against the Republicans and vice versa. It's like ridiculous that they can't come together and work to make this country better. But
yeah, I mean, I agree. When you politicize everything, it makes it harder to get information out and get everyone on board on the same track, because someone's always going to be skeptical of that information because it's not coming from a source that I typically listen to. And that's part of the problem, and that's in the political sphere and in the religious sphere. I agree with you when it comes to your faith, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, or atheist, doesn't matter what it is or what God that you believe in, if any at all, that's fine. Use your faith, but also subscribe to the common sense knowledge that's out there that the science is presenting. It's like the story, the parable about the guy on the roof when the flood comes and he's asking God to save him. And then God sends, a boat. He sends, multiple people. And then the guy just denies, no, I'm waiting on God. And then eventually the guy dies and goes to heaven. And he's like, God, why didn't you save me? I had faith and I was waiting for you and I believed you. God's like, I sent you all these different things to save you, to help you. And so we're looking for this miraculous entity to part the sky and come and do everything. But we don't understand that the knowledge that we have, whatever you want to call God or the higher power, the energy, the universe, whatever it is, it's there for a reason. We don't have access to these things simply to disregard them. Science is there to help us. And so it's just a simple thing of wearing a mask. How hard is that? And I think that's the part that so many people are resistant to, which plays a part in why we're a year and a half into this, terrible pandemic. Yeah. So looking at that, from transitioning from your work life to daily life, do you have a daily routine? What has been something that you do to kind of get you through on a daily basis?
Well, first I would say I was when this whole thing kicked off, I didn't expect for it to roll on this long, and I didn't expect for it to be this serious. I was like, oh, it's spreading pretty quickly. Okay, it's just not doing too so hot. Initially, I was not um, um, following all the guidelines. Got into a many of arguments with my wife over it. But at the end of the day, the argument was more so about keeping the family safe. Um, and when I sat down and just thought about it for a minute. I was like, yeah, do what you need to do to keep yourself and your family safe. So then um, I made jokes to my wife that she is the family Dr. Fauci. That because she pretty much everything that she was asking me to do and saying that I should try to start doing. 2 weeks to 3 weeks later, they were actually pushing it through the CDC of guidelines. So I was like, maybe I need to listen to this woman a little bit more. When I was like, right now, got the double mask. I have a face shield that I wear. But when I leave the house, I have my mask on, I have a face shield, I have hand sanitizer. Like I'm going to war per se, to make sure that I don't bring anything into the house. I go to work, I come home. I've been blessed that haven't had to be out on the street so much working in the field because now I'm an educator, so I'm teaching. So I'm, teaching remotely and in classrooms here at headquarters. But do that when I come home, take off my clothes, I go take a shower. So I decon as I come in. And got to the point where I actually wore a mask in the house because, I'm exposed to people daily, every day. And I don't take that back onto my family, so I wore a mask in the house. And initially, my parents were, why are you wearing a mask in the house? Because I don't know who I've come in contact with. And at the end of the day, initially when this whole thing kicked off, you have to think that if your thought process was everybody is not infected, that's the wrong mindset to have. My thought process was everybody's infected until they tell me that, until there's proof that they're not.
You're skeptical of everybody, like, stay away.
Like, I don't know, but okay, but it makes you, because I wasn't the most social person when we were, in high school and all.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we pretty much stayed in small groups. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The FYI, everybody, we went to high school together.
But when we had our groups that we hung out with, but this pandemic has made me not necessarily it's not in my blood to do this, but made me a little bit less social. Not like, oh, don't talk to me, but it's more so like, right now, if we do this right now, kind of stay our distance, then we can come back sooner than later, but it's been much later than I expected. Then we can come back together, laugh, have fun, barbecue, et cetera, et cetera. Sacrifice now.
Yeah.
For later on. So my routine has been of isolation. So, unfortunately, have not seen my parents or have not hugged my parents in over, hell, I don't know, it's been a while, a year and a half or so. And, I can't wait till we can do that. But, until then, even if we're all vaccinated, my daughter is not going to be vaccinated. So still, it's not going to happen until they have the vaccinations for the 3-year-olds.
So you pretty much come to the acceptance that there's going to be a little more time before we're able to get back to those interactions.
Yes.
And your routine basically is on an extension and an elevation of, okay, I'm used to spending time in small circles, but now I'm definitely focused on minimizing those circles and those interactions, not simply for myself, because like you say, even if I am vaccinated, my wife is vaccinated, and we're following the protocols, I still have my daughter who is not, vaccinated. And so I still have to sacrifice those social interactions because of her, Yeah, that's a lot to think about.
Because right now, and this is the thing that I don't think a lot of people think about, is this is a novel virus. So we don't know the long-term ramifications of this virus. So if you get COVID, we don't know what it's going to do to your internal organs. We've already heard about children who've gotten the coronavirus have actually had something that refers to something like Kawasaki's disease, which was the inflammation of the blood vessels around the heart. And it caused them to have heart issues for the rest of their life. So I don't want my daughter's life to be stunted before she even gets the chance to live. So that's my thought process and how my wife and I navigate this whole situation.
Yeah. I think as a parent, that's a major concern is we don't know that uncertainty of how it can impact not only us, but our children. So I'm willing to take those drastic steps that some people may think, oh, that's too much. You don't need to do all that. But I'm taking worst case scenario and working back from there. Instead of being too cautious or too carefree, I'm being a little more cautious just in case. And I think that's understandable. And then also, I would think that you being in the medical field and seeing all the things that you see, there's probably an extra level of caution there.
Yeah, I would say initially when it first started, no, it was not like this. It's been a transition. It's been a metamorphosis of my thought process because I was not as careful as I am right now until I had to have that heart to heart with my wife. So yeah,
she got you straight.
Oh yeah, we good now.
So, do you think that we'll ever get back to normal life, and if so, when?
Initially, I was very, very hopeful of it. I'm not very confident in that right now because in order to obtain or get to this point of herd immunity, a certain percentage of folks have either had the virus or gotten the vaccine. It's kind of weird that most people who are being reckless are the individuals who don't get sick. But they're the ones who will probably get other people sick because they are asymptomatic. And that's a concern of mine because, one, because this virus is so brand new, they're already talking about booster shots for the vaccines. which is nothing wrong with that, but people don't take flu shots because of the thought process of autism. And I'm pretty sure there's probably so many conspiracy theories about this vaccine, about the chips. It's going to turn you into a zombie, like a whole bunch of BS when it comes to the vaccines. Am I one to just give me a shot? No, I want to know what it's about. And one of the issues with with this vaccine is it was developed so quickly. Most people do not know that this vaccine has been in the technology for this vaccine has been in the works for years. Messenger RNA has been in the works for years. So, and they've been studying coronaviruses before. So, do I think that we are going to get back to normalcy? It would take a big step from everybody to come to one accord. Like, in order for us to get there, we all have to work together. There is too much turmoil about different things. And not saying you cannot have your thought, your beliefs and your thought process on how to do stuff, but how about making a sacrifice? I think once people sacrifice a little bit for right now, then we can do that. We can be back to normalcy at least by the end of this year. But you got to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice.
Pretty soon.
I say that, but then I renege on that statement because of what's going on in India. And it just hit me like, hold on, India, it's like, it's exploded over there.
Yeah, they just had 400,000 cases in one day.
Yeah, that's
insane.
Exactly. So it's like, now you can look at that in the sense of, I don't even want to acknowledge him as a doctor, but Atlas, I guess we'll get closer to the herd immunity if everybody gets sick. So then, yeah, we'll have normalcy then, but why should we sacrifice folks if we don't have to? People shouldn't have to die just to have normalcy. And I think that's been like the biggest, my biggest issue is like we did not take this thing as seriously as it should have been initially. So here in the United States, I don't even know what the death count is, but I know it's over 500,000, probably close to 600,000 people, and over, I don't know what the case is, the number is right now, because it was getting depressing. So I just stop following the number. And even the CDC said that with the number of cases that are out there, you can multiply that by either 8 or 12 times, and that's the number of how many people are actually infected. So there is probably more people that were infected than we actually have the numbers for because of how it's done initially. So, like I said, initially I was talking around, you might be sick, you might be sick, you might be sick, stay masked up, goggled up. So.
Yeah, the invisible killer, and people look at the small percentage of deaths and the small percentage of symptoms shown and everything like that, and they use that as, well, I don't need to worry about it because the chances of me getting it or whatever, or getting sick from it or dying from it are very minute. But like you say, it transmits without you knowing. And it might be that one person, you might not be sick or have any symptoms, but your family member might, your coworker might, your best friend might, And so that's the part, like you say, it's the responsibility of us all to make those small sacrifices to look out for our fellow man, our fellow human being. Even if I don't care about myself, if I die, whatever, YOLO. But let me care about the person next to me. And if I do that, if I'm humane enough to care about the person next to me, then I will take the necessary steps to protect them. And I think that's what we
100%. Yeah. That's what they did. That's what we did for 9/11. Why couldn't we do that for this virus?
Yeah. So looking at the virus, you say by the end of this year, very optimistic. That's probably the most optimistic projection that I've gotten so far. What is
let me rephrase that. It's more
optimistic, man.
I'm optimistic, but I'm actually optimistic about the vaccine for the kiddos. I think they're gonna open it up for the kids by the end of the year, so they might be vaccinated by the beginning of 2022. That's my optimistic mindset on that. Right. As for normalcy, I'm thinking, maybe next summer. I don't think that we're going to, because we still got too many people who are fighting against science and common sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a more realistic projection next summer, because we're ramping up on the vaccine. I think India will get their cases under control. It may take the rest of this year to do so, but I think a year from the time we start vaccinating until enough people are vaccinated, they understand the mutations and everything. I think next summer is more realistic for a little more sense of normalcy. I don't think we'll ever go back completely to how we were before, unfortunately, but that's a little more optimistic. But when you think about getting back to life post lockdown, post quarantine, what are the things that you're looking forward to do? I know you mentioned hugging your parents and everything like that. What are some of the other things that you're looking forward to doing?
Very experiences with the fam. So going to the zoo with my daughter, going to the museums, going back to the park, putting my daughter in. Before this pandemic, she was in this little gym. It's like a little gymnastics class for toddlers. Had her in that. The little girl is strong. I want to put her in as many activities that I can put her in, expose her to as much stuff as I can expose her to, because, us being from Monroe, Louisiana, and being who we are, we didn't have as many opportunities as we can potentially give our kids. So that's my biggest thing, is to try to do life experiences for my family, and especially for my daughter and any other little ones that might come across or might pop up, might help them more.
That was the time. You got plenty of time at home.
Yeah, exactly. But we have do things like that. Travel. Took it for granted. We took a lot of things for granted prior to this, and we sat down and discussed that, like, simple things as just having a barbecue or having people over at the house. Because since this pandemic, there's been no visitors.
Yeah.
House has been on lockdown. So, just getting out and doing some stuff with the family, inviting the family from out of state. Like, anything that is not at the house.
Yeah. Get away from these four walls. Yeah. I think that's the main thing most people are looking forward to, is just interacting with people and appreciating being close to someone again, without having to worry about a curfew or worry about, a cough or anything like that. Just breathe in, laugh, and enjoy the moment. And like you say, barbecuing. Those are, spectacular events. The fact that, okay, we got 4th of July coming up and we can't even celebrate like we would normally celebrate. We as Americans, we love eating. Food is our thing. We find any reason to eat. And so,
exactly.
those are celebrations. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what would be your message to the world for the people that see this? What would be your message of hope or guidance for people listening?
I would say the one thing I would say is, at the end of the day, and I know people use that line a lot, at the end of the day, but truly at the end of the day, we're all in this together. The world is as vast as it is. It's a small world out there. I'm not using all these little cliche lines right now, but the world is small. On a global scale, it's small because how fast you can travel from one place to another place. That's the primary reason why this virus moved and spread as quickly as it did. So, with that being said, we're all in this together. If we work together as a collective world, we could combated and mitigated this thing to the point where there would have been minimal loss of life. But as long as we have the mindset of this is me over here, and this is mine over here, and I don't care what you got over there, but I got mine, but I'm not going to look out for you because I still got mine, then we're going to always have issues. And you can't bring everybody to the table. You can try to, but there are always going to be individuals who think that they are better than or beyond what you're trying to do. So I say that in closing of saying that as long as we work together collectively, something that we can't conquer, can't do. I sound like Joe Biden right now. But
this made me think of the Bad Boys, but instead of ride together, die together, I'm thinking we strive together, we survive together.
Yes.
One humanity for life.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
I should make a t-shirt.
Make a hashtag of that, man.
I think I will. I think I'm going to add that on there. So yeah, I mean, I agree. We make those sacrifices as individuals for the collective good, and we will get past this, which is the reason why I'm doing these videos, is so that we all can share our stories and draw strength from each other. Because some have seen more tragedy than others. And, the mental aspect is the biggest thing. Just being locked down and being controlled with, schedules and curfews and everything like that. And it's depressing. And so by listening to other people's stories and sharing your story, it's kind of cathartic.
I will say this. I appreciate you giving me a time to voice my opinions and my thoughts. It was helpful. I appreciate it.
I definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing. So we will definitely be talking again.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, all right, everybody. Thank you guys for joining in on the show. Stay tuned. Remember, you only have one life to live. Make sure you do it justice.
I would like to thank all of the wonderful and brave people who have trusted me with their stories. Although there are billions of people on this planet, the past year and a half has made many of us feel alone and isolated. My hope is that by sharing our tragedies and triumphs, we can begin to reconnect and understand that we are not in this alone and that we are all in this together. If you would like to be a part of the Quarantine Chronicles community and share your story, click on the interview scheduler in the link description below. Winston Churchill said, "If you're going through hell, keep going." We're not going to let this pandemic beat us. Let's keep pressing and keep progressing. Justice done.